Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're heading straight into the DRS zone.
That perfect spot for analysis.
Exactly, where those tiny details make all the difference. We're digging into the fallout from the Mexican Grand Prix because, honestly, the stories behind the results, they tell you way more than the headlines.
Our mission today is pretty clear.
Yeah.
Find those crucial, maybe subtle reasons why some drivers and teams looked great and others, well, others really didn't.
And it often comes down to tricky conditions, doesn't it?
Absolutely. That low grip in Mexico, that was the key challenge. It caught out quite a few big names.
Okay, let's start with maybe the biggest puzzle. McLaren. Wow. The difference between Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri was just stark.
Huge difference. Norris looked completely dialed in, didn't he? Flying when it mattered.
Yeah, but Piastri, he looked uncomfortable all weekend. The pace just wasn't really there, even when he was making up places. Compared to the front runners, he seemed properly sunk.
Yes, sunk is a good word, and it really points to that low adhesion issue, the slick surfaces.
We've seen this before, haven't we?
We have. The data backs it up. Piastri definitely seems to struggle more on circuits like Mexico or that other low grip one we saw earlier. Norris, though.
Norris handles it. He finds that grip somehow.
He does. He seems to manage those conditions really well, find that edge.
It's such a turnaround from the start of the season, though. Remember, back then, Norris was the one sounding unsure about the car.
Right, and Piastri seemed totally comfortable, really affirmed. Now it's completely flipped.
And sources are pointing to that Singapore meeting, right? Where Norris specifically asked for changes. He described what was killing his confidence.
Yeah, and the results were, well, pretty much instant for Norris after that change, which leads to that interesting question.
Favoritism. Is that what we're hinting at? Giving the established guy what he wants?
Well, it's either that or maybe it just shows Norris knew exactly what tiny setup tweak he needed to get that confidence back. Whereas Piastri, still newer to the car, maybe couldn't quite pinpoint the fix he needed for those specific conditions.
But hang on, if Norris was that specific, does that say something about Piastri's feedback? Or is it maybe the team's issue, not giving them a baseline that works for both until things get slippery?
That's the core tension, isn't it? The car is clearly sensitive. Look, if Brazil turns out to be high grip, maybe Piastri bounces right back. But Las Vegas, everyone expects that to be super low grip. If Piastri struggles there again and Norris shines,
But then it confirms it. Either the car needs a very specific setup only Norris has figured out, or it just inherently punishes drivers sensitive to that sliding.
Exactly. It's a key thing to watch.
Okay, that low grip point, it takes us straight to Aston Martin. What a tough weekend for them.
Oh, a nightmare.
Yeah.
Mexico basically exposed their Achilles heel perfectly.
What is that weakness exactly?
It's a specific combination.
Yeah.
Circuits needing high downforce wings,
Yeah.
but also having low air density, like Mexico's high altitude.
Ah, right.
That combo forces them into a really compromised setup. It's like the perfect storm for them to underperform.
So thin air means they need big wings for grip, but then the drag is massive and the setup window just disappears.
You've got it. They're completely boxed in. And Alonso, he had a terrible weekend. That's just chaos.
Yeah, he got caught up in that domino effect, didn't he? 3 cars getting tangled up.
Total victim of the circumstance there. Thankfully for them, Brazil should be different. Conditions are expected to be much more favorable.
Okay, let's switch gears a bit. What about Williams, and specifically Carlos Sainz in the Ferrari? Because unlike Aston, Ferrari actually showed some great pace at times.
Yeah, Sainz particularly.
Yeah.
He was genuinely quick, right up there with Leclerc for periods. And that two-stop strategy, definitely the right call for him.
His drive felt a bit undersung, maybe, given all the chaos.
Totally undersung. Think about it. Penalties, interruptions, everything going on. And he finishes a solid 20 seconds ahead of the Alpines.
Wow, 20 seconds.
That gap really shows his speed on that track. And crucially, it highlights one of the biggest gaps between teammates we saw all weekend.
Because Albon and the other Williams,
he just didn't have that same brilliant pace. A really significant difference between them there.
Okay, just a quick note here. If you're watching this on YouTube, welcome to the DRS zone. Don't forget to hit subscribe for more F1 analysis like this.
Good point.
So, sticking with team struggles, Alpine. Oof, that was just a disastrous Grand Prix overall for them.
Disastrous is probably putting it mildly.
Uh-huh.
They just seem fundamentally unable to get the aero efficiency working right now.
Right.
And yeah, okay, Colapinto might have had slightly better race rhythm than Gasly, but honestly, when you're fighting at the very back.
It's a hollow victory, isn't it?
Completely Pyrrhic. They just can't fight the cars ahead, and the tire wear seems like a massive, massive problem.
Yeah.
Big concerns there for their development path.
Okay, let's touch on Red Bull quickly.
Yeah.
Because even the dominant team seemed to, well, not exactly struggle, but Max didn't just walk away with it.
It's interesting, isn't it? Whenever Red Bull or Verstappen have a slightly tougher time, the immediate talk is always about, losing key technical people.
Yeah, that's the narrative.
But it often overlooks how complex these cars are. Even the very best drivers can suddenly just lose the feeling, lose that connection, or fall out of the perfect thermal window for the tires.
So you think that's what happened with Max mid-race?
It looked like it. The RB20 is fast, no doubt, but Max seemed to lose pace. Not a mechanical thing, probably that complex mix of altitude, car compounds, temps.
Right.
He only really showed that usual magic on the final stint on the softs. And even then, analysis suggests it was more about incredible tire management than just pure raw speed to stay ahead.
Fascinating dynamic. But let's shift now to something much more serious that kind of cast a shadow over the weekend. Marshal's safety.
Yes, that was concerning.
We saw that really frightening close call. Liam Lawson was furious on the radio, wasn't he? Seeing people crossing the track right in front of him.
Yeah, and when you look into it, the details are alarming. The marshals apparently got an order to go onto the track.
Okay.
But then that order was canceled, revoked.
Yeah.
But it happened too late. They were already crossing. And yes, it was technically a slow zone. Double yellows were out. But the potential for disaster there is just huge. The fact a car got so close is proof of a serious breakdown in the system.
And hearing about that incident, it immediately makes you think of, well, the history, the tragedy of Tom Pryce.
It absolutely does. We have to remember these things. Pryce was such a promising Welsh driver back in the 70s. His career cut short so tragically.
He died, along with a young marshal, Frederik Jansen van Vuren, at Cal Lamy in '77 South African Grand Prix.
And we need to understand why that happened, to see why the Mexico incident, even though no one was hurt, is so critical. That '77 accident was a catastrophic failure of procedure. Marshals went onto the track.
Without an order, right. That was the key difference then.
Exactly. No official order given. They rushed out to deal with a stopped car, crossing the track in a really fast corner, maybe 250, 260 kilometers per hour.
And Pryce couldn't see the marshal because he was drafting another car?
Precisely. He hit Van Vuren. The marshal died from the impact. And the fire extinguisher he was carrying
hit Pryce's head.
Yes. Killed him instantly. Shattered his helmet, ripped the roll hoop, clean off the shadow car. Just horrific. The car kept going, hit Jacques Lafitte. Luckily, Lafitte wasn't seriously injured.
So the absolute lesson from that tragedy was marshals never, ever go onto the track without explicit orders.
Never. But the near miss in Mexico highlighted a different kind of failure. Not marshals breaking rules, but a communication breakdown. The cancellation of the order came too late. They were already committed.
That's a crucial distinction.
It is. And look, this sport historically sometimes waits for a disaster before it acts decisively. We just can't afford to be complacent because, nothing happened this time in Mexico.
No, absolutely not.
The FIA has to review this. They need to improve the protocols right now. We have the memory of Tom Pryce, that grim reminder to force action before something terrible happens again due to a communication lag.
So wrapping this up, the key takeaways from the race analysis seem clear. McLaren's driver confidence is super sensitive to low grip tracks.
Yep. Aston Martin has that specific flaw in high altitude, high downforce scenarios.
And the performance gaps, like between Saints and Albon, seem to be getting wider on certain weekends.
But the biggest shadow, really, is safety. That close call wasn't just luck. It exposed a procedural vulnerability that needs fixing urgently.
Which leaves us with that final kind of provocative thought for you, the listener. If that order for marshals to go out is already given, what system, what technology do we need in that split second to basically hit an emergency stop? How do you recall people safely when they're already moving on to a live track?
How fast does that communication need to be? What's the fail-safe?
Something to think about. That's it for this deep dive in the DRS zone. Thanks so much for joining us for this really essential analysis.
Always good to dig into the details.
Definitely. Don't forget to subscribe and follow the show so you never miss one of these critical breakdowns. We'll see you next time.